Hello guys, it's Ben here from Next Gen Base, and this is our Death Stranding 2 technical review. It's the time when we take a look at the frame rates and the resolutions and all of those good things that happen on the PS5 and the PS5 Pro. So this is the opening scene of Death Stranding 2, and I played through the entire game in performance mode on the PS5 Pro. Something that we'd not seen prior to launch. It was all PS5 footage, but I mean, yeah, taking a look here, this just looks phenomenal. We're pausing it for a second so you can just see all the detail, and when we zoom in, you can see this is 4 times. The text is readable on Sam's shoulder plate on the Pro, but we'll skip to the PS5 in performance mode here, and you can see there is a bit of a hit in the image quality. It does look a lot softer. So this leads us to talking about resolutions. Obviously, when you zoom out a little bit, it still looks really impressive on the base PS5. But the resolutions, it's not necessarily my strong point, but looking at this, it feels like it's a native 4K in the quality mode on PS5 Pro. Performance mode is likely going to be using PSSR to upscale from presumably around a 1440p. The PS5 quality mode is more than likely going to be a native 1440p, and the base PS5 performance mode, it certainly feels like it's around 1080p. I mean, I said before, you can read the text on the shoulder plates on the Pro in both modes, just about make it out on the PS5 in quality mode, and then in performance mode on the base PS5, it's a lot softer. But again, this is double zoom, so you're not going to be noticing this unless you're playing it on a cinema screen, essentially. The thing that I found interesting is that the PS5 Pro performance mode does look substantially better when you zoom in to a 4 times level, which we're going to do now. It's a lot cleaner. There's a lot less aliasing. There is some aliasing on the PS5 in quality mode and in performance mode, but performance mode has that resolution lowered as well. The quality mode, like I say, has this touch of aliasing to it, but the image quality is quite soft on the performance mode on the base PS5. So yeah, it's unlikely that you're going to be noticing this kind of level of detail, but the fact that it's there, I mean, it's difficult to tell, to be honest with you, the difference between the PS5 Pro quality and performance modes. But we'll take a look through the opening scene on the different consoles here. So this is the PS5 in performance mode, and without, at first glance, I mean, it looks really impressive. It sticks to 60. Image quality is a little softer, as we saw, but the performance is pretty steady. And the scenery is just breathtaking. I mean, you can hit, when you get to this point, there's a few points in the game where you get a dynamic camera option, and we'll see that in just a second. But yeah, when you press that, the camera kind of pulls out, and then you can just see everything around you. And you may be able to see a slight misstep that I took on the base PS5, but like, yeah, the scenery looks gorgeous. The texture work is incredible. Even on the base PS5, like, it just looks ridiculous. And then so here we go. Here's the aerial camera. So this is like a dynamic camera. And just watch Sam, because I may have tripped. It's just breathtaking scenery. And again, just to prove that it is in game, you hit the terrain scanner there, and it shows you what's going on. Where is Sam? There he is. Oh no, I think it might be here that I took a bit of a tumble. There we go. Right, so moving into the quality mode. This is a little bit later on in the scene, but yeah, again, that frame rate graph is solid. It's solid 60 in the performance mode, solid 30 in the quality mode. This is basically the case throughout, regardless of whether you play on the PS5 or the PS5 Pro. The image quality is definitely quite sharp. It's a lot sharper than the performance mode when you play in quality mode. But there is a little bit of aliasing, which we saw when we zoomed in to the footage a little bit earlier. Dynamic weather, dynamic day and night cycle. in the game. You can obviously timefall was a big mechanic in the first game, and that's the same here. And yeah, it's all dynamic, and it just looks really, really nice. I was constantly blown away whenever I went to watch footage back of how good this game looks. In the moment, you think this looks really, really impressive, and then when you go back to it, you look back and you go, this just looks mental. Like I say, I think this is a 1440p presentation. The performance mode definitely feels like it's a 1080p presentation, but you get the frame rate bump, and I think I would sooner play in a higher frame rate than I would with a higher resolution or a lower frame rate, which is why I play through the game in performance mode. So this is my PS5 Pro running the game in performance mode, and very similar, but you can tell the image quality immediately looks a little bit sharper. Had very little in the way of issues. We will come to a couple of issues that I had later on in the video, but regardless of the area or the type of activity, you're pretty much guaranteed a solid frame rate for the most part. We will come to it. You'll see in some of the footage there is maybe 1 or 2 dropped frames in areas that could be a little bit busy, or if there's a transition between animations, like if there's you get those animations where you knock a guard out and it cuts to like a close-up. There's maybe 1 frame that's dropped there. But yeah, on the whole, it looks really impressive. This is now in the quality mode. Quality mode again. It feels like it's a native resolution of 4K, and the performance mode. The performance of the quality mode looks. I mean, it's solid. It just doesn't budge from that 30. The one thing that I will say about the modes, we know that the Decima engine is capable of having like a pro enhanced mode. I think that was the case in Horizon Forbidden West, when you're running on 120Hz display, and that sticks to a 40 frames a second presentation. That's not the case here. You do, in the menu, you have either performance mode or you have quality mode. So there's no variable options. It's either one or the other. So I don't know if that's planned. I haven't seen anything in terms of a patch. There was a patch that dropped today, which I went through and just looked at, and it doesn't change anything that's in this technical review. It doesn't change anything that's in my main review. But yeah, as you can see, basically as you're navigating the world, it's the frame rate is pretty solid. This is early on in Australia, so you start the game in Mexico, then you jump to Australia. This is going through the early sections in Australia. In terms of mechanics and stuff that are in the game, there's an in-game day-night cycle, so atmospheres can change on the fly. This is kind of walking into a BT area, so you expect to see that change a little bit, but the game can change overnight. You know, in the blink of an eye, really. You'll be driving down the road, and then the game will shift into a night mode, which just it turns everything on its head, and it still looks absolutely beautiful. There's dynamic weather effects. So here, for example, there's a river. If the river gets overflown or overflowed, you'll notice it because you can get a surge in the river. It's another mechanic that you have to think about. If there's a lot of heavy rainfall, there's also gate quakes, which are earthquakes, and you can have landslides, you can have avalanches, you can have rock slides. It just looks phenomenal, regardless of where you are in the world. Everything looks like it's had money thrown at it. It's just a beautifully designed game. The art direction's superb. The foliage looks great. It does have more of an action-orientated feel to it this time round. So we're getting some footage of some combat here. Again, solid 60 frames a second throughout. In the PS5 Pro performance mode, we've got some base PS5 footage coming up, so you'll be able to see that shortly as well. But yeah, I don't think people will be too disappointed with what we have captured on that front. So the thing that I noticed, and to be honest with you, I couldn't really tell the difference too much between the resolution in the performance mode and the quality mode on the PS5 Pro. PSSR is obviously doing its job on the Pro in the performance mode, but it doesn't feel like it's upscaled. That's a really weird kind of thing to say, but it's rare that there are any upscaling artifacts that I saw. It just looks nice and solid throughout, and I can't see a reason to not play this game in performance mode if you have a PS5 Pro. If you have a base PS5, then it's a bit more of a difficult proposition, because you have to choose between that softer image quality and the 30 frames. But on the PS5 Pro, there is very, very little difference in terms of the perceived resolution between between performance and quality mode. So speaking of, here's a bit of footage of the quality mode. You can tell that the immediate drop down to 30 feels a bit weird straight off, but then as the game gets going a little bit, you can sort of see how it feels and how it looks. I mean, this is kind of a dusk setting. There's obviously a bit of a fire in the background there with some smoke going up, and just a bit more traversal here throughout the world in my trusty red and white pickup. It's absolutely beautiful, from the character designs to the landscapes. It's just breathtaking. You get sandstorms as well as part of that dynamic weather cycle. And a little bit more footage here, just heading down a road that I didn't realise wasn't finished. It's a looker. It really is, and you can see the foliage here, which we'll come on to on the base PS5 in a second. But even during the combat, again, this is the quality mode on the Pro in a bit of BT combat. It just looks great, and it doesn't drop any frames whatsoever. Normally I get to talk about drop frames, but we're seeing very, very few of them. So obviously the Decima engine is pretty good at foliage. That's one of the things that we took from the Horizon games, and this shows here. I mean, even in the quote-unquote worst mode that you can play it in terms of visual fidelity in the performance mode on a base PS5, still looks really, really impressive. Jumping up to quality mode, you can see that there is a big jump in terms of image quality. It's noticeably sharper, but in terms of the actual landscape, it looks kind of the same. It's obviously the same game, but yeah, it looks. You will notice a little bit of aliasing here and there if you play in the quality mode on a base PS5. So just to show you that the the performance mode on a base PS5 isn't impacted too much by that softer image quality. When it's in motion, this gives you a bit of a flavour for how it handles all the foliage going off at once as the game goes on. So now a bit of combat on the base PS5. Here we have again more footage captured in performance mode. You saw some drop frames at the start, and we're now, getting into 60 frames. The drop frames are not overly common. For the most part, it does get a little bit. It does drop a few in busier areas, which we'll show you in a little while. But yeah, on the whole, 60 frames a second all the way through. I drop back into quite a few areas on the base PS5, and then when you go into quality mode, you don't really see any drop frames at all. If you can handle 30 frames a second, if you're not that sensitive to frame rates, if you enjoy playing games at 30, then the 30 frames a second quality mode on a base PS5 is going to be the best way to play it in terms of image quality. Personally, I can't play 30 frames a second games for too long. I prefer a higher frame rate. But this just goes, this shows you how manageable the combat is in Death Stranding 2. There is, as I say, there is more of an action focus there, this kind of just shows you how that all works. A little bit more traversal on the base PS5 in the quality mode. Once again, you can see that everything looks nice and sharp. We're in that little desert area. Obviously, bits and bobs that people have put there. You saw that little frame spike was, again, cutting back to an animation. And that's the only time, again, that it happens in quality mode. I never noticed anything in terms of actual gameplay ever dropping. But yeah, just that locked 30 all the way through if you want to go into quality mode. And then we hit the performance mode with a little bit more combat capture. Again, you saw a few drop frames at the beginning, and then this is where it starts to dip a little bit. Again, there's a lot of enemies around, and it just feels a little bit heavier. I'm obviously getting under quite a lot of fire. It wouldn't surprise me if Kojima had said, right, slowly drop the frame rate as his health goes down. But yeah, it's there are some dropped frames in this for sure. But again, base PS5, this doesn't look bad at all. That softer image quality doesn't make too much of a difference as you get used to it. I mean, I played through, like I say, the whole game on a PS5 Pro. It was only going into it straight from one to the other that I noticed it, to be honest with you. So, yeah. The question that a lot of people are going to be asking, though, is ray tracing. Is that in the PS5 Pro? It doesn't look like it is, at least not in a reflections capacity. So you can see here, as you go past the water, there's some ghosting from the cables from the suspension bridge, but only over the water. This usually implies that there's something going on with the reflections, but we'll see in just a second here. It is screen space reflections and cube maps. You can see at the very right hand side of the screen, as you pan the camera around, the reflection kind of comes into view. So that was on quality mode on PS5 Pro. This is in performance mode on PS5 Pro. Doesn't matter which mode you use, and again, you can really notice it here. So as you pan the camera down, the truck disappears from the surface of the water because it isn't on screen. That's the same on quality mode, and this is performance mode, and this is quality mode. You'd expect there to be some in the quality mode, but it's just not there on either. So no RT reflections. I'm not 100% sure about the lighting side of things, though, unfortunately. But it's here that we come to the sticking point. Now, I mentioned in my review, I noticed a little bit of stuttering, so just keep your eye on the scenery in here. As the camera pans around, the scenery just seems to stutter a little bit. It's micro stutters, but the strange thing is it just makes the camera feel a little bit temperamental sometimes. The weird thing is that there's a clip that's coming up, and you'll be able to see exactly what I mean. It didn't feel smooth when I panned it round if you look at the scenery. But then I did the analysis of the frame rate, and you can see why I got confused. So here, the rocks and the building, if you focus on those, it just looks it looks a little bit stuttery. However, I put the footage through the frame rate analysis, and it keeps that 60 frames a second. So the way our frame rate analysis works is that it analyzes each frame and it monitors for a change. So there's definitely something changing every single frame. Whether that's a case of things being animated slightly differently in the background, whether it's a different frame rate, or whether the camera's panning at a slightly different rate to what it's expecting, I don't know. But it definitely felt a little bit stuttery. I mean, this is again on the PS5 Pro. I managed to capture it and actually see the frame rate dipping this time round. So this time was definitely an actual frame rate drop. And it's weird. It's not a game changer. It's not a deal breaker by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just quite sensitive to frame drops, particularly when I'm doing things like panning a camera around or similar. It was just a strange phenomenon that happened on the Pro and on the base console. So this is the base console here, and you can see when we go, it seemed to be around this bandit camp as well. This bandit camp is near the pizza chef, the prepper, and yeah, whenever I went past it, you could feel it at its worst start to drop a little bit, and yeah, unfortunately, like I say, there was a patch today. I've gone back and had a look at it, and it hasn't resolved the issue that I was having. I have fed this back to the studio, and I have fed this back to PR, just to say, look, the game feels phenomenal for the most part. It's just sometimes when you're panning the camera around, like, it almost feels like things are jumping ahead or lagging behind a little bit in the scenery. The actual truck and, you know, the Sam as a character is fine. But yeah, like I say, definitely not a deal breaker. It's just a small blemish on what feels like a magnificent technical achievement. It shouldn't let you shouldn't put you off playing the game. But yeah, I did mention the fire effects earlier. This is something we're going to take a look at in just a second here, as we go to look at some of the set pieces. Now, the set pieces, very much like the first game, are these huge bits in the middle where you go and get whisked away. So a very slight spoiler warning, although this has been shown off before. And this is the first one that you do. So, like, these fire effects look unbelievable, and in the background there you can see some fireworks. You end up walking through that bit as well. The particle effects just look ridiculous. I'm bound to not show you any more of these set pieces, but they are all phenomenal. It just looks unbelievable, and you know, it holds its frame rate all the way through. At least on a PS5 Pro. I did jump back and have a look at the PS5 as well. But yeah, on the whole, Death Stranding 2 is a wonderful technical achievement. It's given me some of the most jaw-dropping visuals that I've seen in a video game, with a solid frame rate across performance and quality modes on a PS5 Pro. There's a little bit of drop frames here and there on a base PS5. But yeah, that's our technical review of Death Stranding 2. It's really, really impressive. Go check out our main review if you haven't already. We'd love to see you again. If you've enjoyed this so far, drop us a like, leave us a comment down below. And if you're picking Death Stranding 2 up, we've got a lot more content that you might be interested in going forward. So yeah, we'll see you guys soon. All right, take care. Bye-bye.